Bitcoin pulling back after touching fresh all-time highs last week. The cryptocurrency trading just above 107,000 right now. This as top government officials and crypto heavyweights attend the 2025 Bitcoin conference in Las Vegas. Joining me now on the ground, we've got Chris Kline, Bitcoin IRA co-founder and COO. Chris, good to have you here with us. Just want to start with some of the key takeaways from the energy on the ground there.
Absolutely. Well, as you can see behind me, this is the line forming for Vice President Vance will be taking the stage here in about 15, 20 minutes. It actually goes downstairs, wraps around the expo and almost to the casino floor. So lots of energy and enthusiasm. Interestingly enough, I'm seeing a lot more sport coats this year. That's why I put one on today, which I think is indicative of the big banks, retail, or the institutional players that are really starting to show up big here in the crypto space.
All right, more sport coats, fewer hoodies, it sounds like. Okay, so that is the at least attire vibe that we've seen a massive shift in here. As you know that more companies are moving to hold Bitcoin on their balance sheet too. We know that there are recent announcements that are probably knocking around and being talked about there on the ground as well. Trump Media raising $2.5 billion to buy Bitcoin. GameStop announcing their first Bitcoin purchase. How should retail investors think about these names and how is it being discussed there?
Yeah, it seems to be this race to reserve is still carrying forward. The announcements out of DJT and GameStop this morning clearly indicate that we're at a space where people are racing to put this on the balance sheet. And it's not just a Bitcoin play. You see groups, Ethereum and Solana starting to capture the attention. This is a conversation, not just a theory that's happening in boardrooms across America. Michael Saylor's strategy has really proven this to be a solid practice. And it should be very interesting to see where we'll be towards the end of this year when we start getting earnings reports from this.
You know, one of our news heads here was talking earlier within the newsroom just about this premium that typically gets annexed to some of the companies when they add Bitcoin to their balance sheet. Why do you think that is?
Oh, I think any business that's in the Bitcoin space is also getting premiums right now. I just had the pleasure of having dinner and drinks with the president, the CEO of eToro here in the United States. So in general, with the hype and the expected price movements ahead, as we were talking about when I saw you last month, my target's 180,000 for this year. That's a huge growth in the balance sheet for these groups, and I think that's getting priced into their models.
You know, as we're continuing to see visuals of the line forming behind you, and that is for Vice President J.D. Vance, as we think about the number of different profiles that have tried to either annex themselves to the crypto growth that we've seen or be the face of crypto, there's none more so that's trying to do that than the current occupant of 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in President Donald Trump. Is that net good or bad from what you're hearing talked about at the conference, especially knowing that there are past profiles that have had tragic falls over the course of their own professionalism and lack thereof, I should say, within the crypto space?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I was in Nashville last year. This is my 4th conference. And I think a lot of the buzz around, because Donald Trump actually joined us as a candidate then, it was a lot more, even the audience, you felt there was a segment that was folks that were there for Trump and then folks that were there for Bitcoin. This year with J.D. Vance joining us, and this administration overall is showing at least indications that they're going to be more pro-crypto and friendly to us as we move forward, which is in stark contrast to what we saw 4 years ago in the last administration. But hope isn't a strategy. Most folks that are looking at Bitcoin are in 20, 30, sometimes 40-year cycles that they're just holding and hodling and waiting until that moment in time where maybe we'll reach $1 million Bitcoin or a $10 million Bitcoin. And so we're going to have a lot of administrations between then and now. And so it's hope is not a strategy. Building out and doing things like retirement planning with crypto are great tools to use to your advantage. But yes, it's going to be interesting to see how it all hashes out across the next few months.
And so what is the best way for someone who's just trying to figure out what their exposure to cryptocurrency and to Bitcoin should be if they're early innings in building out that portion of their portfolio and trying to figure out, should I buy shares of a company that's publicly traded that holds Bitcoin on the balance sheet versus buying an ETF versus buying the cryptocurrency directly?
Well, that's great. A great question because we're seeing all three of those channels live here today at the conference. You've got sponsorships from some of the ETFs that are out there, obviously buying shares of a company that's also holding Bitcoin on the balance sheet. Those are great tools for you to get some access into it. But, the pure and most, I guess, direct way is to get your hands on Bitcoin itself, the real thing, buying it directly through an exchange like Coinbase or using it in your retirement savings plans with groups like us. All tools are great because they give you exposure to Bitcoin, but in different ways. And let's not forget, alt season's around the corner. Bitcoin will have its runs and alts will have their day in the sun here soon as well.
Chris, great to see you. Enjoy the conference out there. Look forward to seeing some of your updates online.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me today.